Let's make sure the YouTube is awake, and then we'll be off to the races. There it goes. Yes. All right. All right. Let me just make sure it's up. Make sure everything is functioning according to plan. There I am. All right. Cool. What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Salutations. It is Wednesday, April 29th in this quarantine year of our Lord 2020. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are staying well. I hope you are staying home. I hope everything's going good. I hope you had an okay morning, whatever time it is where you're at. I had a weird morning. Yeah, I had one of those mornings where you're just like, dude, come on. Again. All right. Okay. I don't want to, man, looking forward to when this is all over and we have the world again. Guess I'll make the most of it. One of those, one of those. And, which brings me to my song of the day, This Year by the Mountain Goats. It's just that kind of a day. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Am I right? Come on. This year, Mountain Goats. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I broke free on a Saturday morning, hit the pedal to the floor, drove north up Mills Avenue, listened to the engine roar. I drove home in the California dusk. I can feel the alcohol inside of me and picture the look on my stepfather's face, waiting for the bad things to come. There will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year, but I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. It's a weird sentiment to have about 2020 this early on in the game, but it's not necessarily for the year in the literal sense. More like we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this situation. And, the optimist in me says we're going to be stronger for it. But, there's a lot of important messages going on in the news today. And it's, I think it's very important that we get to some of them. And some of them are from Steve Mnuchin, and Stacey Abrams has an important message. Stacey Abrams has an important message for the world. And here it is. Stacey Abrams on Tara Reade sexual assault allegation. I believe Joe Biden. She believes him. But what has Joe Biden said so far? Nothing. I believe him. He hasn't said anything. Yeah, but I believe him. The article admits this, by the way. Joe Biden has said, as of the recording of this right now, Joe Biden directly has said nothing about the Tara Reade allegations. And Stacey Abrams goes, I believe him. I believe he's innocent. I believe him. He hasn't said anything. Yeah, I believe him. That we can agree that's the ultimate definition of privilege, right? Like that's, it doesn't get any more privilege than that. Yep, I believe him. He hasn't said anything. Yeah, but I believe him. I totally believe him. Yeah, I'm on his side. He hasn't even said anything. No one's even asked him. Yeah, they haven't. No one's even asked him. Well, I believe him. Like, how ridiculous is that? Yeah, I believe him. All right, let's go look at this thing. Imagine if that was a parent, by the way, like a parent of a child, where it's like, Mrs. Abrams, your son was accused of he was involved in this school prank, and there was some vandalism that occurred to the school pool. I don't know why that's the example that came to my mind. I think it's because I'm rewatching the series The Sopranos, and at one point in the series, they do a prank and they vandalize the school pool, and the soprano, the son, is involved. Anyway, but like, yeah, your son's been accused of this thing at school. Like, no, he's innocent. I believe him. You haven't asked him. Yeah, but I believe him. No one's asked him. There's no official statement on the record from your kid. How do you? But now he's innocent. Trust me, I know. I believe him. No further. Don't ask him any questions. I believe him. That would be the worst parent ever, or the best if you were that kid. All right, so Stacey Abrams believes Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden didn't say anything. All right, former blah, blah, blah. Stacey Abrams on Tuesday night defended presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden when asked about sexual assault allegations from Tara Reade. So here's what Abrams said about it, I believe that women deserve to be heard, and I believe they need to be listened to. And then I believe that the guy doesn't even need to be asked, apparently. I believe if it's a powerful person that might be able to give me a job, especially, I believe that we don't even need to ask that person. I believe women deserve to be heard. They need to be listened to. And then before we ask the other party involved, I can say, I don't believe you, and I believe this guy because he's powerful. What a lesson, man. But I also believe that those allegations have to be investigated by credible sources. Abrams, who is said to be on the short list to be Biden's running mate. The New York Times did a deep investigation. It was an investigation so deep, they didn't bother asking the interns who Tara Reid was in charge of, and then she wasn't in charge of them. She got those duties taken away from her. They didn't even ask why that happened. That's how deep their investigation was. That's how deep their investigation was. Their investigation was so deep, they didn't even ask the University of Delaware, who, by the way, the University of Delaware has all those Senate records from Biden's staff, meaning whether or not Tara Reid actually filed, she's saying she filed a complaint with the staff. Whether or not that's true, they're saying that they have no recollection of it. Those records are housed at the University of Delaware. Are we going to find out one way or another? No, because the University of Delaware is refusing to release any of those records. They won't release those records until 2 years after Joe Biden is out of the public eye. 2 years after he is retired, they will then release those records. The New York Times investigation was so thorough, they didn't even bring that part up. That's how thorough it was. That every person that Tara Reid said she told corroborated her story. That there was a call to Larry King, that is allegedly Tara Reid's mom, that happened at the exact date and time that she said it did. New York Times didn't barely even mention that, if they mentioned it at all. Of course, they didn't in the first piece. This is the thorough investigation. So the New York Times did a deep investigation, according to Stacey Abrams, and they found that the accusation was not credible. I believe Joe Biden. They found nothing. They did not find anything. There was nothing conclusive from anything the New York Times has published. They certainly wanted the reader to believe that those accusations were credible. Some of the sentences in that article were so terrible, they had to be retracted, i.e. the one sentence where it's like, there were no other patterns of misconduct by Joe Biden, well, except for all these instances where women said that he made them feel real uncomfortable with touching and standing too close and just being a weirdo creep. Those aren't the exact words from the article. I'm paraphrasing. But outside of that, there's been no... It's like, I've never drank beer before, guys. I've never had a beer. Well, except for 2 nights ago, I had a beer. And then there was this other time where I had beer. And actually, I've been drinking beer since I was 12. But I don't have a beer right now. And I don't really recall any talk of me having a beer. So I've never had beer. I've never drank beer, you guys. Never done it. All right. So the Times in the report said the newspaper found no pattern. Oh, they referenced this sentence. How about that? They referenced the sentence that I just brought up. They actually have the nerve to reference in this Hill article. The Times, in the report that Abrams referenced, said that the newspaper found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Mr. Biden. Why aren't they sharing that entire paragraph that later had to be retracted? Because that actual paragraph found there was no pattern of sexual misconduct by Mr. Biden. Well, except for all these instances of women saying he made them feel grossly uncomfortable, inappropriate touching, except for all of these instances, there's been no pattern of sexual misconduct. There's no pattern of sexual misconduct, well, except for all these instances where there were. That's the sentence that this Hill article is referencing. And that's the sentence that Stacey Abrams is pointing to call it a deep investigation and say that it means Joe Biden is innocent. And she believes Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden has said nothing. Wow. I believe him. What evidence do you have? A sentence in the New York Times where they said there was no pattern of misconduct, and then later they listed all the patterns of misconduct. But that's what I'm pointing to. Joe Biden hasn't said anything. Nope. Do you just believe him? Yeah. Don't you think women deserve to be heard? Yeah, they deserve to be heard and then ignored when it's a powerful person that we like. This is not from The Onion. This is real. Like, Stacey Abrams is a real politician, and this is a real article of a real thing that's happening. This is not fake. This is not a dystopian Family Guy sketch where they talk about how horrible our politics has gotten in a foreshadowing sketch where Brian the dog is talking about how crappy the nominees are. This is real. This is real time. Real time. Man, what a testament to power. I believe him. He hasn't said anything. I believe him. Yeah, I believe him. He's cool. There's a sentence in the New York Times. That's all I need. All right, Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams. Man, is she really vying for that VP spot. Boy, does she want it. She wants it really, really bad, folks. All right. So, now, I mentioned that Steve Mnuchin has some important messages for all of us today as well. And of course he does. Steve Mnuchin, guys, in a time like now, one of the things that's really important is compassion. We have to show a little bit of patience with the people around us. We need to show a little more compassion just in the world in general. And, the United States government, for all of its flaws, it really does understand compassion. It really, they understand the need for compassion. And, Donald Trump himself, he's like, look, I know people are hurting right now, so I'm going to make sure that they get my autograph on their checks. That's pretty valuable. And, I know that my Donald Trump autograph, I'm actually going to put on eBay. I started the bidding at $2 million. So, I'm going to get my yacht with that. And I'm already buying. I mean, I told you guys I'm buying a condo in Los Angeles with my $1,200 stimulus check. And, life's good. And really, the compassion has been truly inspirational. And here's some more of that compassion from Steve Mnuchin. Mnuchin says heirs should return coronavirus payments sent to the deceased. Okay. Steve Mnuchin, the guy who had Wall Street's back when it came to shady housing practices and kicked a bunch of people out of their homes while padding the pockets of the banks and faced no prosecution for it. Kamala Harris said, nah, you're cool. Steve Mnuchin, that guy, who is Treasury Secretary, said Tuesday people who have received coronavirus relief payment for their deceased relatives should return that money to the federal government. You're not supposed to keep that payment. Here's the quote here. We're checking the databases. This is Steve Mnuchin talking to the Wall Street Journal, very honorable publication. We're checking the databases, but there could be a scenario where we miss something. And yes, the heirs should be returning that money. What do you think that really means? There could be a scenario where we miss something. What he's really saying, he's not saying that your uncle who's been dead for 25 years is going to randomly get a stimulus check. That's very unlikely to happen. Where he's saying we might have missed something, what he's really saying is people are dying from this thing. Some of them might be your relatives, and they might have died between now and when we're sending these checks out. And if they get one, you better give it back. Condolences, sure. Give us our money. Give us our money. Are they asking why the banks didn't distribute all the trillions they got amidst the people? Are they asking those questions? Are they asking why the PPP, the triple P loan, just kind of ran out and no one got it except for all these big businesses? Are they asking those questions? And then they just replenished it anyway? So likely the same thing will happen again where the banks just pocket stuff and then don't trickle anything down. Are they asking where that money is? Of course not. That's fine. Steve Mnuchin likes giving money to the banks. But, if your relative died from coronavirus, and they accidentally still got a $1,200 check, you better give it back. You better give it back, pleb. You got an extra crumb on mistake because of your dead loved one? Well, give it back. Give it back. Your government loves you. They love you. They're looking out for you. Steve Mnuchin. This guy, I mean, you're not supposed to keep that payment. Oh, man. A number of taxpayers, here's another quote from this, or here's from the article. A number of taxpayers have had questions or concerns about their payment. One question came up is what people should do if they receive a payment for a dead relative. What do we do, oh leader, if a dead relative who just died tragically? Are people really asking those questions? Are people really like, hey, you know, my relative who just died from this horrible pandemic? What happens if they happen to get a check? Do I give it back? Steve Mnuchin. Really? He's got his thumb on the pulse. He's for the working people. And you know, he really cares. I mean, Steve Mnuchin, really, I think what Steve Mnuchin should do is he should just have, he should be like a singing telegram guy. That's what he should do. He should just go around and it'll be like, did you get an extra payment? Did you give it? Well, give it back. Did you get an extra payment? Well, you better give it back. And when I'm here, I'm gonna kick you in the sack. Banks are great. That's what he should do. Steve Mnuchin, man of the people. Man, don't you feel great? Don't you feel great about our leadership? They got your back. They really got our back. And speaking of your back, what about your face? Man, that's a transition into this next story. You got a back, well, you got a face too. And here's something that's going on. Facial recognition is earing its head amidst the pandemic. So check this. Check this. All right, this is from NBC News. All right, so controversial tech company ClearView AI says it's in talks with federal and state agencies to track COVID using facial recognition. So they spoke with the founder and the CEO of this Hone That in an NBC News Now exclusive. I grabbed this from Fight for the Future, who is in favor of banning facial recognition, and I also am in favor of banning facial recognition because the technology has only been abused, and we are already over-policed in facial recognition. There's no evidence showing that the facial recognition employed by law enforcement has made anybody any safer. There's not one shred of evidence. Only the opposite has ever been the case. It's only made people less safe. It's been used and abused. Police officers will use these databases to find information on an ex. It has mismatches up to 98% of the time. It's just a complete overreach and abuse of power and not constructive in any way whatsoever. But they're saying it's going to help with this pandemic somehow. Let's listen to this mental gymnastics, shall we?
Wonton Tat is the CEO of ClearView AI, a company that was already controversial for the one service that it offers to law enforcement.
The way it works is after a crime has been committed, after the fact, they look through the video evidence, and sometimes they have a face of somebody they don't know who it is.
And there's a 2% chance that that face will actually be the criminal. This technology has never helped anyone, quote, catch a bad guy, ever. It's never happened. 98% of the time, mismatches. Even when they did an experiment with politicians who are recognizable public figures, still mismatches galore.
It can run it through our system, and our system searches only public information on the internet, and they may have a lead to a mugshot or a news article or a social media post of that person.
Now, as health authorities consider how to follow...
Oh, and by the way, all these databases are easily hackable. Databases have been hacked at various state lines, at various ports of entry. All those databases have been hacked where they have all of these extra pictures of people's faces along with sensitive information. Man, I'm sure nothing bad would happen if that got in the wrong hands.
follow the paths of people who are positive for coronavirus, Tontat says he's been in discussion with federal and state authorities about helping to identify people as part of a contact tracing program.
We talk about reopening.
Now we're going to open it again.
We appreciate the leadership.
There's the David Letterman guy.
The president's desire to reopen the economy and get Americans back to work.
If we are to open up the economy in a way that's safe for everybody, that we need to be able to test quickly and also trace and find out who they've been in contact with.
Does that mean using public footage to find people who've been near someone known to be infected? Tontat says the cameras are already in place that can trace someone's movements.
We think that a lot of retail spaces and gyms, they already have cameras that are there. There is the expectation that you're in a public area. So there's no necessarily expectation of privacy. The camera's already there in case crime happens. And they can now already be repurposed to help track anyone else who has had the virus.
And while masks might slow down the identification process, ClearView's system learns quickly. How many pixels do you need to identify somebody?
And we've had success with even older cameras. We can do things from about 110 pixels by 110.
The whole idea behind something like Google and Apple's contact tracing app, which they announced in April, is that being part of it is voluntary and that no one's identity will be revealed without their consent. But can we safeguard public health without identifying individuals?
Yes.
Or do we have to make a compromise on privacy?
No, that's the thing. We don't. That's the thing. This isn't useful. This isn't. Let's hear it.
A Harvard bioethicist, says we cannot wait to sort out the answer.
Well, there's been much discussion about the possibility of using apps that collect data of who we've been in contact with, and then you would notify the app if you get COVID positive, and people would be notified. We really just don't know whether that's going to be a successful intervention, and there are big risks about privacy.
We don't know if this will work, but we can't wait to find out. We have no idea if this will help us in any way whatsoever, but we should do it anyway. And your privacy be damned. In London, when they had patrolling on the streets, camera patrolling on the streets, it was an absolute disaster. They ended it. It was a complete disaster. And what would happen in a scenario where they just have random facial recognition on the streets is that police would just be scanning random people walking down the street. And if they got something that says, oh, this person has some kind of warrant or something like that, first of all, you have no idea if it's the actual person or not. But then you're going to approach them anyway. Police are going to approach them anyway. This is straight up Orwellian. This is a straight up dystopian Orwellian nightmare. And it's not keeping us safer. It's not helping with COVID. There are so many other ways to utilize technology to help people trace if they have tested positive. Shahid Buttar and I have discussed that on this show. You know, because again, when we point stuff like this out, it's not like we're saying there's no room for technology to help in a constructive way, in a collaborative way, where the person who has tested positive is working to try to notify everyone they should. But something like this overextensive reach is not constructive. And this is the same logic they used for the Patriot Act to justify the Patriot Act. Well, is this actually going to keep us safer? We don't know, but we don't have time to talk about it. We don't know, but we have to violate this amendment and that amendment in the Constitution because we don't have time to talk about it. And it's possible for two truths to be existing. That was an awkward sentence. But there's two truths at play here. Truth number one, the pandemic is very dangerous and we need to take it incredibly seriously and we need to fight this thing. But truth number two, this is an overreach and this isn't productive and this isn't helping and this is dangerous. We don't need to have this type of compromise on civil liberties to help fight this pandemic. It's not going to help fight the pandemic. It's only going to infringe on people's rights to privacy. That's all it's going to do. All right, let's watch the rest of this.
About the relationship we have to the state, about the access to the things we need to have good lives, like employment. And these are all things that I think need to be sorted out in real time rather than say, oh, there's this shiny new toy over here. Let's go ahead and use it because what harm can it do?
But that's exactly what he's calling for. He's like, well, we don't have time to. All right.
What we're really trying to do here is think of solutions that take a little bit of privacy, that are after the fact investigations, that's using public data that's already out there, or security cameras footage that is already there, and help solve the problem.
Will an agency that uses your technology on top of other contact tracing technologies wind up with a repository that includes my identity and my health information and my whereabouts over the last few months in a way that we're all going to be uncomfortable?
And my social security number and my blood type and my marital status and what I had for lunch yesterday and the size of my last bowel movement. Is it going to have all that stuff? I mean,
it's really up to those agencies how they put these programs together.
It's up to the agencies.
The identification part of the process.
Oh, what an answer. What an answer. We're going to provide all this data. It's up to the agencies what they do after that. Who feels comfortable listening to that guy? Who in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, this guy, he has our interest at heart. That guy asked him the question, is there going to be like an overreaching amount of information there that's going to make people feel uncomfortable? And he said, it's up to the agencies. He didn't say no. He said, it's up to the agency. I don't know. I mean, they might just do whatever they want with it. They might just try to find a warrant for your arrest. They'll do whatever they want. But yeah, this technology is going to help. Sure. All right. Okay. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. So for a little bit of good news here, MayDay Strikes, they're a happening. MayDay Strikes are a happening, and this is what you can expect. The Vice, again, Vice has been covering these strikes. I gotta say, not the biggest Vice fan in the world. And I always say that. You guys know that. Not a big fan of Vice, but I gotta say, with these strikes, they're one of the few larger corporate outlets that have actually been covering the strikes. They're one of the only ones on the corporate, and of course, independent media is covering it. But as far as corporate outlet goes, Vice, for whatever reason, one of the only ones. Although Wall Street Journal, we talked about it yesterday, Wall Street Journal gave a little bit of coverage to, they talked about it in a doom and gloom way, like, oh no, the strikers are coming. People want human rights. We don't like this, but they're acknowledging it because that's how big it's gotten. Even Wall Street Journal has to pay attention. But here's what we can expect. Amazon's, Whole Foods, Instacart workers organize a historic mass strike on May 1st. Frontline workers at some of the biggest corporations in the country will lead a mass strike action, asking customers to boycott Amazon, Instacart, Whole Foods, and Target. A series of work stoppages, sickouts, and protests in recent weeks will culminate on Friday, May 1st. College May Day, baby, in a historic strike organized by frontline workers at some of the country's largest corporations. Workers at Amazon, Whole Foods, Instacart, Walmart, FedEx, everybody's favorite places. Come on. Target and Shipt, which, by the way, Shipt is that thing. Remember we talked about that? That's like that app. I didn't know what it was. Remember, I was like, I don't know what that. It's an app that works with Target. And I've never used the app. I don't have the app. I wasn't aware of it. But so I've been protesting Shipt a long time now, you guys. I have been participating in the Shipt lockout. I'm really nailing it with that Shipt lockout. I was crushing it before I even knew I was crushing it. And I said that. I was like, I'm going to continue. You guys, you can count on me. I will not download this app that I didn't know existed. I wonder what other, man, I don't mean to pat myself on the back, folks, but I mean, I wonder what other strikes I'm crushing it at. I wonder, because there's a bunch of apps I don't know about. I wonder what other horrible ones I don't have, huh? And you too. You're doing good if you don't know about apps. Don't know much about apps? Good on you. Huh? You say apps, I say, I'll have the kale salad, please. Huh? See? Anyway, all right. Okay. Meanwhile, these same companies, by the way, making record profits. They're not providing basic protections for frontline workers. They're making record profits. Amazon is raking in money hand over fist. They're not even providing adequate hand sanitizer for their warehouse employees. They're not telling their warehouse employees when someone tests positive for COVID. It takes somebody to show up and send the person home. All right, we covered all that on the show. A flyer circulated widely on social media. Let's check out the flyers, shall we? Let's check out the official flyer. Here we go. Here's the link they have. This is the link from the Vice article. Whole Foods, Amazon, Target, Instacart workers striking May 1st. So this is the hashtag is General Strike 2020 and hashtag Essential Workers Day. So Amazon, Whole Foods, Target, Instacart. We'll add a little bit of Walmart for good measure. You know. All right, so back to this article. Let's see what else is going on here. Oh, Amazon has something to say. Oh, this is from Chris Smalls, the lead organizer of the May 1st walkout, who is the person who also organized the protest at the Staten Island warehouse and the person who came in to send the person who tested positive for COVID home. That's who Chris Smalls is. We covered him on the show before. So here's what he has to say. It's more powerful when we come together. Chris Smalls, lead organizer of the May 1st walkout. And he was fired from Amazon Staten Island Fulfillment Center after staging a walkout on March 31st. Here's what he has to say here. We formed an alliance between a bunch of different companies because we all have one common goal, which is to save the lives of workers and communities. Right now isn't the time to open up the economy. Amazon is a breeding ground for the virus, which is spreading right now through multiple facilities. All right, so here's what Amazon says. Here's what Amazon says in response. Well, we respect people's right to express themselves. We object to the, I'm just trying to make a gross voice. Well, we respect people's right to express themselves. We object to the irresponsible actions of labor groups in spreading misinformation and false claims about Amazon during this unprecedented health and economic crisis. A tool from Amazon told Motherboard in response to the news of the MayDay walkout. Man, talk about gaslighting 101. They're accusing labor groups of spreading misinformation. They're spreading misinformation because there's no disputing what the situation in those warehouses are like. There's been enough testimonials of the people who are there. Those warehouses are not sanitized properly. People are not given gloves. They're not given masks. They're not given hand sanitizer. They're not given adequate pay. They're a breeding ground for COVID-19. That has been verified and over-verified by people who are there. And here's some PR stooge for the company. Some person who probably has some master's degree in marketing who decided to use their powers for evil and said, I'm going to be a willing stooge for Amazon, issues this BS statement. You have the right to express yourself. People need living wages. People need sanitary conditions. They're not expressing themselves. This is not like, hey, the workers want a right to an open mic night once a month. No, the workers want rights to adequate working conditions and fair wages. And they want to be protected. And they want to have sick leave when they're sick. And they don't want compromised people who are susceptible to a deadly disease to have to come to work. This isn't them expressing themselves. What do you think they're? You think they're protesting for the right to write a book together? They're standing up for their lives. The right to express themselves. How disconnected. We object to the irresponsible actions. Well, I reject to the irresponsible actions of Amazon and Jeff Bezos. That's what I object to. And whoever wrote this statement, please take a look in the mirror. They won't even name the person, by the way. They let these people stay in anonymity because they're just willing tools for Amazon. Wow. But hey, protests. So MayDay, let's give a list of the companies again. And this is just some of the big ones. Amazon, Whole Foods, Instacart, Walmart, FedEx, Target, Shipped. MayDay. It's happening. And that's what needs to happen. National strike, general strike, rent strike. It's time. All right. We don't like the irresponsible actions. Nah. All right. There's too much above my head. I'm seeing that now. I had to adjust my camera for a podcast I did yesterday with someone else's podcast, and I had to adjust my camera. And I forgot about that, and I had not readjusted it for this morning. So there's that. Way too much stuff going on above my head. There could be like a bunch of little comic bubbles above my head if I was so inclined. Wish I had that, but oh well. All right. Guys, first of all, Graham Oden and myself, we have another show. We have another show coming up this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Those shows are on Zoom. What happens is you grab a ticket. They're only $5, and you get a Zoom link sent to your inbox right before showtime. And we do a comedy show for you via Zoom. They're a lot of fun. We miss touring to death, and this is our substitute right now since we can't be on the road. We're doing shows on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can get tickets for this Saturday at romplacone.com. I'll be making a YouTube post about it as well. Also, if you are on stable ground and are interested in able, patreon.com/romplacone. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album, podcast. I do a patrons-only stream once a week where I respond directly to the patrons. And I'm also doing a Zoom show just for patrons once a week. I do a Zoom show only for patrons. And I think even after the quarantine's over, I'm going to continue those Zoom shows. I started them because of the quarantine, but I think I'm going to continue them after. That's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying that a lot. So we're going to continue those. So patreon.com/romplacone. It's a good time. Robert, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Great show, Ron. Great show again, Ron. Thanks. And then you have a smiley face and a cat. I love it. I think that's a cat anyway. It's an animal of some sort, and I like it, whatever it is. I think it's a cat, but I love it if it's a dog. You know me. You know me. I'm an animal guy. Me like videos, yeah. Me like videos, yeah, says solidarity forever, never cross a picket line May 1st. Amen to that. Amen to that. It's a great sentiment. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much. Me like videos, yeah. And yeah, never cross that picket line May 1st. Mayday's coming. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, right here. Get your news on with Ron. And until then, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.